I never should have gone hiking alone that day, but after my buddy Mike canceled at the last minute, I figured the Blackwood Trail would be safe enough on my own. It was a popular route after all, at least during peak season. But on that cold November afternoon, the parking lot was empty except for my old Honda Civic. The first hour went fine. The fallen leaves crunched beneath my boots as I made my way deeper into the forest. The bare trees cast strange shadows across the trail, but I kept telling myself it was just my imagination playing tricks on me. That's when I noticed the first marker. It was a small stack of rocks. Nothing unusual for a hiking trail, except something felt off about it. The rocks were balanced too perfectly and they didn't match any of the local stone. They looked almost polished, with strange red streaks running through them. I should have turned back then. Instead, I took a photo and pressed on. The trail started getting steeper, and the shadows seemed to grow longer even though it was only early afternoon. That's when I heard the whistle. At first I thought it was just the wind, but it had a pattern to it. 3 short notes, then 2 long ones. Over and over. I stopped walking and held my breath, straining to figure out where it was coming from. But the sound seemed to be coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Hello?" I called out. My voice sounded small in the vast emptiness of the forest. No response. The whistling stopped. The silence that followed was worse somehow. I picked up my pace, wanting to reach the summit viewpoint so I could start heading back. That's when I saw the second marker, another stack of rocks identical to the first. But I knew this was impossible. I hadn't doubled back or gone in circles. I'd been following the trail markers religiously. I pulled out my phone to check my GPS, but there was no signal. The temperature seemed to drop suddenly. My breath came out in visible puffs now, and my hands felt numb despite my gloves. I decided to turn back. That's when I saw him. About 50 yards ahead on the trail stood a man. He was facing away from me, completely still. He wore what looked like old-fashioned hiking gear, the kind you'd see in photos from the 1950s. "Hey!" I called out, relief flooding through me at seeing another person. "Are you headed back to the parking lot?" He didn't move. Didn't even seem to breathe. I took a few steps closer. "Sir, are you okay?" Slowly, very slowly, he started to turn around, but something was wrong with the movement. It was too fluid, too smooth, like watching a mannequin rotate on a display stand. I didn't stay to see his face. I ran faster than I've ever run in my life, my backpack bouncing wildly against my spine. The trail seemed different now, wider in some places, narrower in others. The trees felt closer, their branches reaching out like gnarled fingers. The whistling started again, closer this time. 3 short notes, 2 long ones. I didn't stop running until I reached my car. My hands shook so badly I could barely get the key in the ignition. Later that night, as I was uploading the photos from my hike, I noticed something strange about the picture I'd taken of the first rock stack. In the background, barely visible between the trees, was a figure. A man in old-fashioned hiking gear, facing away from the camera. I never went back to Blackwood Trail, but sometimes on quiet nights I swear I can hear it. 3 short whistles, 2 long ones, carried on the wind. A week later, I couldn't shake the experience from my mind. I decided to do some research about Blackwood Trail's history. What I found made my blood run cold. In 1952, a hiker named Thomas Morrison disappeared on that very trail. The only clues found were 3 stacks of oddly placed rocks and his distinctive silver whistle. The newspaper article included a photo of Morrison taken the day before he vanished. He was wearing the exact same old-fashioned hiking gear I'd seen on the trail. Last month, my friend Mark asked me to go hiking with him at Blackwood Trail. He didn't believe my story and wanted to prove there was nothing to fear. I begged him not to go alone when I refused to join him. He went anyway. They found his camera 3 days later, sitting next to a perfectly stacked pile of rocks with red streaks. Mark is still missing. If this true hiking horror story gave you chills, make sure to like and share it with your friends. Have you ever experienced anything strange while hiking alone? Share your story in the comments below.